In the last video, we created our service to interact with our Feathers API, and we're pulling out all of the logs, except there isn't any, so it's just an empty array being grabbed. So what we need to do now is create a form so that we can actually add logs to the system. So let's go to logs component HTML, and we're going to go above the div here with the ng4, and we want to create a form to add a log. So let's go ahead and add a form tag. Alright, and in here we're going to have, let's put a div, and this will be around the first input field. So input type is going to be text, and this is going to be the message text. Let's give it a placeholder. Let's say message. Alright, and then we need to put an ng model here, so brackets and parentheses, ng model, and we're going to set this to excuse me, message text, and we also want to add a name of message text. Alright, and then let's copy that. We need another input, and this one here is going to be the developer. Okay, and we'll change this to message. You know what, let's not do message, we'll do log. So log text. Alright, and then this one here will be log dev. Alright, and then we need a button. So it's going to be button type is going to be submit. And I'll just say submit. Alright, now we need to add an event handler up here in the form. This is going to be on submit, and it's going to run a function called add log. Alright, so let's save that, make sure that shows up. Okay, it doesn't look very good, but we'll get to that later on. Let's go to logs component.ts, and we want to add the log text here as a property. Set that to a string, and we also want log dev, and also we want the date, so log date. Now we're going to create our add message function down here, or add log. Okay, so first thing we're going to do here is we need to get the date, the current date and time. So let's create a variable. Actually, we'll use let. So we'll say let new date equal new date. Alright, and then what we're going to do is construct the new log. So var or let new log, which will be an object, and it's going to have a few things. Developer, which is going to be this dot log dev, and then we have the text, which is going to be this dot log text, and then the date, which will be this, or not this, but just new date. Alright, actually let's change it to log date. Okay, and then after we get that set, let's go ahead and call the service function that we still have to create. It's going to be underscore feather service dot add log. And oops, I don't want to do that. Add log, and let's put in here that new log that we just created. and it's going to be an observable, so we want to say dot subscribe, and in here we're going to say data, and let's see, we're then going to push it onto the logs property, so we'll say this dot logs dot push. Alright, and basically we just want to push the data, the object that's returned back to us. So underscore ID will be data dot underscore ID. Text, we'll say this dot log text. And what else? Developer will be this dot log dev, and then the date. Okay, so for that we'll say data dot date. Alright, and we want to just clear the form after that, so let's go right here and say this dot log text is going to equal nothing. This dot log dev is going to equal nothing. Alright, let's save that. Now we have to go and create the add log in the service. Okay, so that's going to take in the log, and then we're going to say var header, or headers, equals new headers. That should be capital. Make sure you're importing headers from up here as well. And then we'll say headers dot append. We want the content type. Okay, and that's going to be application / JSON. Alright, and then we're going to return this dot underscore http dot post, and we want localhost, or http localhost, port 3030 /logs. Alright, and then we're going to add another parameter here, and we want to attach the log, but we want to wrap it in a function JSON.stringify. Okay, then we'll pass in log. Alright, and then I'm going to put a comma after that, and then we're going to put in headers will be headers, and then just dot map res to res.json, and that should do it. So let's save it, and let's go back to our application and reload. Okay, we're getting this forms module warning, so to fix that we can just go to our main.ts file, and let's just paste this in, the deprecated disable deprecated forms and provide forms, and then for the bootstrap function we just want to add a couple parameters there, or an array with a couple values. So we'll save that. That should get rid of that warning, and then let's try and add a log. We'll just say start on design, developer is me. Submit, and there we go. Start on design by Brad Traversy, and gives us the date. Now this, I don't want this format. I would rather just have the time. So what we can do is add a pipe. So if we go to logs component ts, actually no, the HTML file, and go to where we have the date, which is right here, and we want to put in a pipe character, and then we're using the date pipe, and then the format I want is short time, just like that. We save that and reload, and now you can see it just says the time. Alright, so let's add another one here. We'll say homepage UI done, and that'll be from John Doe. Alright, cool. So now that we can add logs, we want to be able to remove them as well. So let's go back to the HTML and go down to where we're displaying the log after the time here, and we're going to put in a link, an A tag. We actually don't need href. Let's just put in a click, and that's going to call delete log. And we want to pass in the log ID, so log._ID. Alright, and then this is just going to be an X to click on for now. Alright, actually, you know what, let's make this a button instead of a link. Alright, so we'll save that. Now we have this X. If we click on that, it's going to give us an error because we need to create this delete log function. So let's go down under add log. Okay, and that's going to take in the ID. And we're going to call a service function. So we want this dot underscore feather service dot delete log. Pass in the ID. And then we're going to do dot map res.json, and then we want to do dot subscribe, and in here we're going to say data. Alright, so that'll actually delete it from the server, but we also want to delete it on the client side. So what we'll do is loop through them and then check for the ID and delete the correct one. So let's do a for loop. So we'll say for var I is equal to 0, and then as long as I is less than this dot logs dot length, and then we want to increment I++. Then we want to check for the ID, so we're going to do an if. So if this dot logs dot length, actually no, we're not doing that. If this dot logs I for the current iteration dot underscore ID is equal to the ID that's passed in, then we know that's the one we want to delete, and we can do that with this dot logs dot splice, and then we'll pass in I and 1. Alright, so let's save that and then go to our service and create delete log, pass in ID, and this is actually really easy. We're just going to return this dot underscore HTTP dot delete because it's a delete request. Localhost 3030 /logs/ and then we need to just concatenate on the ID like that, and that should do it. So we'll save it, and let's just put something, say test, submit, and then if we click X, it goes away. Alright, so we can now add and remove logs. So the functionality is pretty much there. In the next video, we're going to make this look a lot better, and we're going to implement the MUI CSS framework.